Okay, the recording has started. And this is the August 13th, 2019 Rook community meeting. And let's go ahead and do a sync up on the status for our current milestone, which is 1.1, and also any potential patch releases that we want to do. Let's bring up the 1.0 project board. And there's nothing here that's in progress or in review. Is there any update on this particular issue here? I think that's been in there for I think since last time. So I don't know if there's been progress or this is an important issue.
Well, there has not been progress, and I think it needs an owner is the problem. We haven't assigned it to anyone. So if this is a thing, and it looks like several people are actually hitting it to be able to mount the RBD volume on multiple by multiple pods, yeah, that can cause corruption, and that's a problem. So even if the flex driver is not the preferred way anymore, like we need to investigate this still, and yeah, it needs to be a priority. So as far as
what's kind of interesting here, though, Travis, is that we also have a long lingering issue with the flex driver implementation around a volume being locked on another node and not being able to relinquish that and mount it onto a second node. So there seems to be an issue both ways at certain times and certain conditions.
Yeah, that's true. And that other one, that's a really hard one, because even talking to the RBD guys, it's like, yeah, well, what if that node comes back online? If we've moved on and allowed it to be mounted somewhere else, it could cause data corruption. So do you really want to release that lock? So even the CSI driver, I need to confirm this, but may have that same issue. If you can't release the RBD volume, how do you mount it to a new place without risking corruption? But yeah, this issue is different than that. This is, let's make sure it's prevented intentionally. But
yeah, and it's interesting that I for a long time, the flex driver's been there for a couple of years, and I had never seen this one at all until this was opened just this summer. So that's kind of interesting that hadn't manifested itself until more recently.
Yeah, nothing much has changed in flex driver.
What is what if this maybe came up with slight changes that maybe are like I don't know, happening because of not more up to date with the latest Kubernetes versions? Maybe something like, I don't know, maybe some timing is like, well, timing in quotes is off by a few milliseconds or something. That causes the flex volume in our case to kind of, misbehave in this case, basically.
Yeah, and we have our own fencing in place, basically, with the flex driver. So it makes me wonder if some other change on our side to, like, maybe this garbage collection issue that's causing mons to disappear. Maybe it's causing the volume attachments objects to disappear, and then the RBD volume is free to mount somewhere else.
I just wanted to ask about that. Yeah, should we add this one for now to the project/milestone? D3575 about the problem at least for them right now, with the operator destroying a healthy cluster.
Oh yeah, let's add that.
I didn't follow that. What was the another number?
If you go to the project board again, I've just added it.
To 1.0 board, or which board?
It's awaiting triage. Yes to the 1.0.
Yep.
This one?
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
I got you, Alex. Don't worry. Okay, so hold on. So before we jump to that issue, there, real quick.
Yeah.
It sounds like if we don't necessarily have, it sounds like the the priority of this for 1.0. It doesn't seem like this is something that, we have a assigned owner on. It doesn't seem like this is focus. This doesn't seem like there's a focus on this for 1.0. Should we consider putting this in 1.1?
We at least need to fix it for 1.1, but
I think you can put it in 2 different milestones, right?
right.
Oh, nope,
Oh, maybe not. Oh, I think you can put it in multiple projects, but not multiple milestones.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's keep then that and put it in that. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Potentially useful for like if you have the like we tested using exclusive lock. So you, like, I know Kubernetes has a timeout on a volume, but we wouldn't necessarily have to do that because with Ceph, if you used, well, you'd have to be using NBD, I suppose. But if you were using NBD with exclusive lock, then, well, no, KRBD still works with exclusive lock now too. The idea is that you could have the block mounted to 2 devices, and the basically the lock for writing will move to whoever most recently did IO. So it might be a good like failover mechanism. Like a lot of that machinery was put into place in Ceph to be able to do live migration. So it's kind of the same as if a pod is on an instance that dies, and then being able to quickly reschedule that pod on another host, we could potentially, that could be useful there. Like we could have like a fast recovery of a PV to a different host.
Okay, so Kyle, you're saying there is an option basically to allow us to avoid having an RBD volume that's stuck when we lose a node.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the exclusive lock stuff. And so it's not problematic from like a data corruption perspective, or should be. It's the same, like I said, it's the same thing we use for like live migrating a virtual machine between hypervisors.
Okay, and I thought there was still some risk there with corruption. But at what level? Can you clarify at what level that lock is? Is it in RBD so that it can make sure there's no corruption? Because I thought there was still some debate there about whether that's a good thing to allow. But I might be thinking of something else.
I believe it's safe, like I said, because we used it for this sort of thing before. But I would want like Jason to double check and kind of give the final like thumbs up on it so that we don't end up with people getting burned. But
right. Okay.
Kyle, could you add that information to the issue in a comment so that we can, folks that weren't in the meeting here could be exposed to that or be able to weigh in on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, so there hasn't been chatter or from Dimitri, even the original creator of the issue, for a month and a half or so. So I'd argue that addressing this in 1.1 is probably going to be the best approach or the most practical approach here.
Agreed. Yeah, 1.1 is around the corner. Yep.
Okay. Alex, you brought up 3575 as something potentially to include in 1.0.
Yes. The problem right now, at least for them, I'm not sure if I've seen other people hit this, but what basically happens for them is that with 103 or 104, when they update the operator, well, for the first part, everything's fine. I'm not sure. I've asked him again, but it's either that when you restart the operator, or when you restart the operator after the cluster creation, and then delete one of the mon deployments, then it seems that the operator to basically delete all the monitors and well, that basically break the whole cluster. I've asked him again, as we talked Travis in the other meeting. I've asked him for kind of, well, exact reproduce steps. I hope I get the information till tomorrow, as it, well, they are basically out of office already, German time. So yeah, and with that, when I got them, then I'll send them to you, or well, I'll let Maximilian post them in the ticket, and then let's see if we can reproduce and hopefully fix it. Because at least till now, from I looked at the code for, well, a few hours. And I don't know, like it doesn't seem. I'm not getting behind where the issue is coming from there, but well, yeah, I'm hoping that, yeah.
Yeah, since it just started happening in 1.0.3, that's the same release where we backported the garbage collection fix that I mentioned in that comment there. So I really suspect it's something around that, because that would also explain why nothing is in our operator logs, because we didn't intend to delete any mons. The garbage collector just did it for some reason. So that
Are we seeing this in master too then?
No, we haven't seen repro that I know of.
Yeah, they haven't read master. I wanted to try master with them, but as both their time and my time was kind of limited when we had the call together, we simply tried to check which 1.0 version it was the problem, and we at least came down to the point that 1.03 and 1.04 are having this issue, and not 1.02 and 1 and 0. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I would suspect that, if this particular commit here was the cause for that change in behavior, that I would expect us to be seeing it in master as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Travis, your instinct on that particular issue and garbage collection, and not being an explicit action or a failure in logic by our operator sounds correct to me as well. I faced an issue with this recently with another controller I was writing, where I had the owner references set incorrectly. Like I was doing it across namespaces, and the objects would disappear. They'd be garbage collected because they're invalid owner references. So if there's something weird about these owner references, and maybe it might be related to the particular Kubernetes version as well that the person who opened this particular issue is on, and maybe that's why we're not seeing it in like on master if we're using newer Kubernetes versions like 1.14 or 1.15. But yeah, the owner references sound like very much, Travis, sounds like the right path to be investigating.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of also feels like it. Sorry for interrupting, Travis. Because from the logs, if you scroll a bit further down, he has also attached the kind of logs of him running watch on the config map. There it is, the second point, and like I think it was like every second. And when you look at it, you basically really see like, all right, I could look at the user IDs. It's a pretty big file. So, the thing is that it's really at one point just empty, basically. And
Got it.
Yeah, it sounds plausible what you're saying there with the. I'll take a look at the output there, and if the user ID has changed, then we basically have our kind of confirmation, at least from my perspective, that this might be a problem there. And as said, like Travis, as we said, I'll try to build an image for them without the owner reference fix, based on the 1.04. And if they still have the issue after that, then we have the confirmation.
Yeah, so this sounds like something to continue following up on. So I'll leave it in this milestone. Thank you for that, Alex. All right, let's move ahead to other items here. I think we're a little behind time now here. So we will continue moving along. Travis, do you want to go ahead and speak to 1.1 updates here?
Oh yeah, so just to talk about the release date. So we last time we met, we talked about August 23rd as being our feature freeze. That's a week from this Friday, so it's coming up pretty quickly. And we talked about then shipping a couple weeks later on September 10th. It so happens I had a trip come up that second week of September. So depending on how we're looking around feature freeze and stabilization, I'd like to either maybe even move up the ship date to the first week of September. That might be a stretch, or else find someone else to drive the release that second week of September. That's all. I think we'll have a better sense as we get closer if it's even possible to bring it up to the first week of September, but any initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that getting a pulse of where we are around feature freeze and what are the long poles that are left or the biggest risk items will help us make a better or more informed decision about that final ship date. I would suspect that if we were somewhat diligent about the feature freeze being August 23rd, and then integration stuff and wrapping up loose ends and testing and all that sort of stuff was the focus after that. I would expect that moving the ship date from 9/10 to September 5th would not be an issue.
That's what I would think too.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to see what state we're in when we're getting down to the code freeze date, and then seeing what's left there, and then be able to make a more informed decision. But I would expect that not to be an issue if we are honoring the feature freeze sort of timeline well. Mm-hmm. That's the caveat.
I pinged Dimitri from EdgeFS, and he thought first week of September was reasonable for EdgeFS as well. But yeah. Okay, we'll leave that as tentative for now.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the community topics and questions section. So I wanted to bring up the that we will be starting down the application process for graduation in the CNCF. We last year about this time of year we went from the sandbox to the incubation stage in the CNCF, and the last stage is full graduation. So we will be starting that effort soon, and there's two main big items that we'll need to accomplish. One of them is a security disclosure process. So we'll need to have a process in place for reporting and fixing and disclosing any security issues that anyone finds, either the security researchers or community members, whoever it may be. We'll have to have a process around that. And there's some models in place from other CNCF projects that we can follow. We don't have to define this all by ourselves, but we do need to do that and then go through an audit process to make sure that our processes are in place for handling security issues. So that takes a little bit of time, a couple of months. And so that's why we want to start this sooner rather than later, with the eventual goal, hopefully, of doing a proposal of applying and proposing to the Technical Oversight Committee of the CNCF in time for or before KubeCon San Diego is the hope here. The other big part of the graduation process, we did a similar thing for when we were applying for incubation, is around getting information, user testimonials, data, surveys, etc., around production usage of Rook. And so we'll be reaching out to people, on Slack, on Twitter, at various means there to try to connect with people and, learn about how people are using Rook in production. What is some of the data or stats about their deployments, gathering some information there. So we'll be reaching out over various means and trying to connect with everyone that's, actively or successfully using Rook in production.
Mm-hmm.
You should reach out to Mike Perez. He's the CEF community manager, and he could probably help send out surveys or something if that's useful.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Mike. Mike's a good dude. I'd definitely be able to work with him on that.
Yeah, if we could have each storage provider, or the more representatives we have from storage providers reaching out to their communities, the better it'll be.
Okay, Travis, you wanted to talk about GitHub hygiene and PRs and issues, etc.
Yeah. Before we move off the CNCF graduation, kind of technically unrelated to it, but in the same time frame, just kind of FYI, we're working through the Rook charter and clarify the charter and um, governance updates. So just as an FYI, I think we have some clarification due around what does it mean for a storage provider to join the Rook community and things that I really want to make sure we're clarifying by that graduation timeline. It's just not part of the process itself really, but kind of in the same timeline. I'd love to clarify that. So we'll get back to you on when we're more further along with that, with thoughts around that. Yep. So around GitHub, just as I was looking through the 1.1 issues last night and updating the roadmap PR again, we have a lot of issues and PRs that really need attention. We're up to like 85 plus PRs. That number seems to go up by about 10 every month these days, it seems like. Just hard to keep up with it. So just as far as hygiene, if everyone can make sure we're getting the right tags for storage providers on them, and just overall, the more help we get triaging these things and commenting on them, the more we can stay on top of them. So it's really just a general comment around it that, yep, we have lots to do and people love the project, so they're opening issues and PRs and want to make sure everything gets attention that needs. That's all for that.
And Travis, so after we enabled a broader set of reviewers and approvers of pull requests, this is that. Do we still not have the horsepower to address or review all these PRs, or where's the bottleneck, you think?
I'd say that removed the bottleneck really from who's able to merge. So now we can merge without being blocked when someone's out of office or whatever. This is more, I think the velocities are already also increased in the last couple of months. So we've been doing more and more community members opening PRs, and I'd say just in general, more horsepower to review PRs would be helpful.
Are there folks, you could speak for the Ceph community. Are there folks that have, demonstrated, have been providing, helpful, constructive reviews that are not yet in the reviewer bucket that we consider expanding that?
That's a good question. Yeah,
because that's each storage provider is can be empowered to drive that process a little bit more. Right. We'll need a approval and appointment. So we have that process fully defined, but you can drive that if there's community members that you're identifying that are started gaining trust and showing value on a consistent basis. Then we can right. Definitely add that broaden that scope.
There's also configuring the bot for the CI that would be helpful. The Prow bot is what we were looking at that Kubernetes uses too. I think that would help manage things and basically sort of round robin between maintainers for sign off on PRs and things too.
Being more explicit about assigning ownership and having accountability there and such.
Yeah, I think that would help.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thanks for bringing that up, Travis. Vishal and Samira, I think you guys are on the call. Vishal, I see you're not muted here. Do you want to go ahead and speak about this item here?
Sure. So we tried to address most of the design comments on the design doc that we had. Samir has been parallelly working on the actual operator. He's close to done. I'll let him give more update than me probably. Samir, you're on there?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Yeah, so we are almost done with the operator code, and we are all set to raise a PR in probably a couple of days. We are currently making sure that all the tests pass. and that should be done in the coming days. So after that is finished, then we'll raise a PR, and yeah, we'll wait for your comments.
That's great progress, Samir and Vishal. That's great to hear. I had brought up the design one pager in a topic later on, but it's applicable right now. So let's bring that up right now. All my feedback that I had provided on the design one pager, I believe, was addressed and incorporated. Travis, I think that yours still had a changes requested status on it. Was your feedback addressed as well?
Oh, I think it probably was. I'll take a final look at that. And,
yeah, okay,
yeah.
good. That'd be great. It'd be good to get the design merged into master, ahead of the implementation.
Yep.
Yeah, we addressed most of Travis's comment, except that one comment I just realized yesterday when I was testing again. The API group and the name, if I use the Yugabyte DB, it kind of tends to get too long. So I just replied on that comment on GitHub, and we can continue the conversation there, Travis.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks.
Awesome. Really excited to see the progress on this and to see the operator hopefully make it in for 1.1. That's super exciting.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Great work, Yugabyte. All right, Travis, FYI.
Yeah, just a couple of big features. Just wanted to make sure the community is aware on these that were merged in the last few days. So a long-standing feature request we've had is that for basically to run Ceph on top of PVs instead of being tied to their nodes they're on with host path. So that is now officially in. And Alexander is going to try running Ceph and Ceph and Ceph.
I'll report on how it is going.
Right.
Yeah, let us know if you get like sucked into a black hole vortex or something, Alexander. Call if you need help.
Right.
I'll let you know.
Yep. And then the CSI driver is enabled by default now. There's no extra configuration required. It just the storage class looks a little bit different for CSI than our Flex driver. The documentation now lists both Flex and CSI as an option, but it is their CSI driver is enabled by default. You can also disable either of the drivers with an operator setting if you don't want to run Flex or CSI.
Yeah, I think both of these issues here are great progress, Travis. The being able to use arbitrary PVs as a backing store has been something we've had an issue open for a long time, and we made steps on it in previous milestones. But making these more final steps is great progress. And then driving the CSI implementation to be enabled by default, I think is a huge user experience win, where, if you wanted to use CSI, you had to do some extra manual stuff, but just having it as part of the default flow, I think is fantastic. So yeah, I want to take that one for a test drive, on my Minikube cluster here and see if there's any, any issues or feedback on that as well before 1.1.
Yep. So, and they're not perfect features, so take them for a drive and we'll track down any issues around them, hopefully before the release.
Cool. Very exciting. Mm-hmm. All right, so we talked about the Yugabyte operator, so we could skip that. And Travis, we still have a PR open for updating the roadmap?
Yeah, it still hasn't merged yet. I pinged Dimitri last night to get EdgeFS items. He said it would be a few days. He'll get back to me. But yeah, I figure I can wait till the end of the week and try and get that in just all at once. And yeah, that's all. I did make a few minor changes last night. It's a separate commit in the PR if anybody cares to take a look.
Awesome. That is 3458.
Yep.
Cool. All right. And then we have a final item here around integration tests.
Yeah. So this was an interesting one. So the PR itself was around raising the minimum Ceph version up to Mimic and stop supporting Luminous. So just so we're clear, so if you try and upgrade to 1.1, if you are still using Luminous, it's basically blocked. The operator will just exit. Okay. So the PR. It's been open for a few weeks now because of the CI has been failing. And what I finally found out is that if I use the tag to say only run Ceph tests, that the CI would pass. But if I ran all tests, it would fail. Now, the other thing I found is if I run the Cassandra tests after the Ceph tests, then I was green too. So I just want to bring up, I don't know what the cause is yet, but there is an interaction between Cassandra and Ceph tests.
That's interesting. Is there some state that
doesn't make
Cassandra's
sense.
leaving behind and not cleaning up fully, or?
I don't know how it would even be related to what Ceph is doing. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense, but the issue already existed, and I'm pretty sure it only came up sometimes in the test as one of our random CI failures, but something about this PR, about changing to run Mimic as the minimum version, makes this, or services this every time in the CI.
It's 100%.
Right.
And what does the failure look like? Like, how does it manifest itself?
So it manifests itself as the object store tests failing in the multi-cluster tests. The operator seems to restart in the middle of that test for no apparent reason, as if it dies, but I can't find any previous logs for the operator. I did all sorts of log collection. There's just nothing that points to why the operator was restarting, like if it crashed or anything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I have no idea why it would be related to
all logs after a failed integration test pass, right? That does not provide a previous operator log.
Well, it does, but there's nothing in it.
It just stops and then.
Right.
The new one starts up in a new log.
Yeah. The one thing I did add to this PR, which will be nice, is to collect operator logs after every individual test instead of only at the end of the test suite. That helped me get some more clues, but still not enough for that specific Cassandra issue.
This sounds like a fun one. Does it take like the entire hour plus cycle to get the results, or does it like fail fast at all?
Yeah, it takes the whole hour cycle.
Awesome.
Yep. Awesome. Oh, it's great.
Darn. Okay, that sounds like a fun one, Travis.
Totally.
Yeah, let me know if you want if you need another pair of eyes on that. That sounds like the type of thing that excites me.
Yeah, I'll send you what I got.
Cool. Okay, that is the end of what we had on the agenda. Were there any other final agenda items to add before we adjourn?
Not necessarily an agenda point, but if anyone is in Berlin, I'll be talking about the Rook on Thursday at the meetup. So,
what kind of meetup is it, Alex? Is it like a community meetup or like just like a technology meetup group?
Yeah, well, it's kind of what's the English word for that? It's a Stammtisch. It's no, it's pretty open. It's hosted by Cloudical, which I work at, and I'm going to talk about Rook there. So
cool. That sounds fun, man.
It's in a cool bar. So if anyone is in Berlin, feel free to send me a message on Slack, and I'll forward you the link to the meetup.
Cool. Sounds fun, Alex. Good luck on that, man.
And hey, Jared, I had one thing as well.
Hey, Rob.
As we get close, hey, how you? So as we get closer to graduation and what roadmap things coming, it'd be good to start ramping up blog posts on the website to get a bit more content going. Does anyone have any interest or any suggestions? I don't know if you've done this in the past to share a doc, have some ideas, and get some sort of rotating schedule for blog posts.
Yeah, like our cadence for blog posts normally has been around the like specific releases in the past. That's been the way we've done that so far. But we are always super welcoming and happy to have anybody who has a good topic or something that they want to share to be an author on the blog and to write up a post, and we'll be happy to provide feedback and to publicize it. That would be amazing for anybody who has something they want to contribute there.
Yeah, I think a useful blog post around graduation time would also be like the Rook Charter. Like, here's what Rook Charter is. This is what it means to join Rook as a storage provider.
And like a historical look at the project as it's grown as well.
Yep, all of that.
Yeah, that'd be a cool topic.
All right, so maybe we'll start a doc, and people can collaborate on ideas about things that we want to put out there, so we can ramp up the content as we get to graduation towards the end of the year.
Cool, Robin. Yeah, feel free to drop a link to that on the Rook Slack for visibility as well.
Yeah, we'll do.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. That's a great point, because we haven't honestly had blog content besides around releases for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
So Jared, this is Samir.
Hi, Samir.
Yeah, so on the topic that you and Travis were just discussing before you finished all the agenda items. So you were discussing an issue with tests, right? And right now I'm in probably the same place. I didn't fully understand your conversation there, but what is happening with me is the integration test that I have for my Yugabyte DB operator, that runs fine. It's just that some of the Cassandra and Ceph integration tests, they fail. So I'm looking at that right now. So I just wanted to understand first if in the master branch, if all the integration tests succeed right now. If they don't, then how much should I pay attention to these failing tests? I haven't really touched any code outside of Yugabyte operator.
Yeah, they do succeed in master, although there are some random failures. Like occasionally some tests will fail. And this PR that I was talking about, the tests were consistently failing instead of just randomly.
Okay.
And Samir, are you running your tests, the integration tests, locally on your development environment, or is this running on Jenkins?
So before I found out a document as to how to run integration tests locally, I was running them against a cluster in GCP. Now, since today, I'm following the document which asked me to create a cube or install kubeadm and then run a bunch of shell scripts that are already present in the tests scripts directory. So I'm following that right now.
Gotcha. Good. Yeah. So it's good you're able to locally iterate at least.
Is that the README under the test directory? Or is that different?
Let me see, which one is that? README under tests, yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, because the integration tests can be run against any instance of Kubernetes. It doesn't have to be kubeadm. It could be any cluster, really, as long as wherever you're running them from has the context to connect to the cluster.
Yeah, and so Samir, feel free to like the particular errors that you're seeing. Feel free to, if you haven't already, share those on Slack real quick, and then I'm sure Travis probably has those particular errors that he's been seeing imprinted in his brain, and he'll be able to look at yours pretty quickly and see if it's the same issue or if it's something else that we need to investigate in a parallel effort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. You could use the test channel for that in Slack. That's where we usually talk about CI issues like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Alrighty. Then if there are no further items here, then I think we can go ahead and wrap it up for the week. Alrighty. Thanks everybody for joining today. Good to hear from everybody.
Thank you.
Talk to
Thank
you
you.
later.
Bye.